caption, start my Facebook Live. All right. All right, Joe, take us away.
Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. We are super excited today. We're joined with the Office of Health and Human Service and Community Services today. And we're really, really excited. But before we do, let me go ahead and just take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Joe Cap, and I am the co-chair of National Entrepreneurship Week. National Entrepreneurship Week is congressionally chartered annual event which supports and uplifts America's entrepreneurs and new businesses. Originally founded in 2006, National Entrepreneurship Week takes place every year during the third week of February. In 2016, Amber and I relaunched National Entrepreneurship Week, and now all across the United States, from Maui to Miami to Maine and everywhere in between, America's entrepreneurial ecosystem is vibrant and thriving. So I want to go ahead before we, ooh, is my speaker off?
No, you're
we
talking.
can
Oh, now you are.
Now it's off.
Okay, was I on camera?
Yeah.
Yes, you were here.
Oh, okay. I don't know when I brought it up. Okay, sorry. So I'm going to throw it over to our co-host, Amber Ravenscroft, to go ahead and help us with some logistics.
Perfect. Thank you. And Tom, if you want to go ahead and get your slides up while I just cover this quickly. If you are in here, the chat function, please use that for introductions, general conversation. If you do have any questions for our speakers, please use the Q&A function that allows us to navigate and keep everything clean when we get to the Q&A portion of the presentation. So with that, I'm going to throw it over to Tom Campbell, who is with the Office of Community Services at the Administration for Children and Families of the Department of Health and Human Services. So Tom, I know this is always one of our most interesting conversations about how your office really supports entrepreneurship. So please take it away and welcome.
Thank you very much, Amber and Joe. You forgot Montana and Minnesota and Michigan and Miami and Maine, and I thought there's lots of places you could go for that.
You know what? You're right. We'll add a couple more M's in there.
You can go to a lot of places. Hi, everybody. My name is Tom Campbell. I am a senior advisor in the Office of Community Services in the agency of the Administration for Children and Families within the Department of Health and Human Services. And so we're deep inside Health and Human Services, but one of the things that we do is we fund discretionary grants, and discretionary grants are grants that you apply for that you're selected for based on the quality of your application, not as opposed to a mandatory grant, which might be just given out because you meet a certain criteria. So the discretionary grant that I'm going to talk about today is the Community Economic Development Fund, or the Community Economic Development Program, rather. And the overview of this program is that the CED program, and I'm going to shorten that because saying Community Economic Development for an hour will be exhausting. So the CED program is we fund community development corporations that address the economic needs of individuals and with low incomes and their families in communities where there is chronic poverty, where there is there aren't enough businesses. And so we are looking for projects that will help create and sustain business development in these communities and in these areas. CED is a crucial component, and there's always a question: why does this jobs and business program exist in the Department of Health and Human Services? We are the human services side of the Department of Health and Human Services, and so what we do as an agency, everything we do is really targeted at poverty alleviation and to mobilize economic or to spur economic mobility. So we see this program, a program that develops businesses and provides jobs to low-income individuals, as an anti-poverty program. It is a program that uses the jobs and the businesses as tools to help the community and to help the individuals and their families. And unlike a lot of programs that support families and maybe with cash assistance or with vouchers for daycare. This is actually creating capacity in the community that will outlive the grant. And that's a really important piece. Just a real quick, some of the specifics about the program. The grants are $800,000, and you get that money for 3 to 5 years, depending on the nature of your program. It's a one-time $800,000. It's not $800,000 a year. The requirements of the grant are that you create or expand a business and create jobs. And then 75% of those jobs that you create go to individuals that are low income, that are really the more difficult to employ type of demographic, right? We want to focus on high quality jobs. We want to focus on good wages, paid leave, fringe benefits. We're not looking for entry-level jobs are fine, but we're not looking for jobs that are still going to leave people struggling economically. And the way we do this, we build into the program the wraparound support services for jobs. The wraparound support services for jobs have a real total benefit, not just for the worker who a lot of these folks are facing challenges that not everybody faces. And so the support services are there to help them with transportation, with childcare, with many other services what they need them in order so they can keep their jobs. We want them to keep those jobs. It's not a one-time thing. We don't, and a lot of small businesses have a lot of turnover. We don't want there to be a lot of turnover. That's expensive. Turnover is expensive, way more expensive than people realize. And so we don't want there to be a lot of turnover, and we want the people that we're employing, that these jobs are employing, to stay and to be able to grow in those jobs. And you can't do that unless there's good wages and paid leave and fringe benefits and the support services that go along with them. So a couple of examples of what kind of jobs we have. And I say we have because these are discretionary grants. Let me make it clear. The Community Development Corporation comes in and they apply for these jobs. They apply for the grant. They tell us what kind of jobs they want to create in the community. Every community is different. Every community has challenges that are unique to that community. Every community has resources that are also unique to that community. And so we want the programs to really be tailored, not just tailored, but really grow out of the ground in those communities. Some of the kinds of programs and jobs that we've created and businesses that we've created in the past: shopping centers, grocery stores, manufacturing businesses, business incubators, and social enterprises, commercial kitchens. A lot of people a lot of entrepreneurs start their business, if it's a food business, out of their own kitchen. But that very quickly runs into issues of health codes and things like that. So
capacity and their ability to be able to service. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. To say nothing of the scalability, right?
Yep.
And that's
Exactly. Yeah.
Distribution centers, childcare centers, farmers markets, agricultural initiatives. And so it's really whatever the community can best use. And that's what I'm saying. It really comes out of what does the community need? What does the community support? What can the community support? So a couple of statistics that I find just kind of blow me away when I stop to look at them over the last 5 years, well, from 2017 to 2022, the Community Economic Development Program has created over 1,800 businesses, or expanded 1,800 businesses. Over 8,000 jobs have been created for low-income individuals. And the resources that we leverage, that this fund, that the Community Economic Development leverages, total $100 billion over 5 years. And so our money is often used as first in the door money. for programs, and a project will get our money, and then they will use the federal money to go to their other funders.
It's like a
Because
catalyst for getting other investors to the
absolutely.
That's
And
awesome.
nobody's building nobody's building a business, a manufacturing business on $800,000. You can't do it. And so the $800,000, we understand, and we want you to come and use that to get other investors and to get other investment. So really, it's a alchemic matching issue at the local level, where you've got the federal money, you've got the Community Development Corporation, you've got the partnering businesses that the Community Development Corporation is working with, you've got the social service agencies that the business and the Community Development Corporation are working with to make sure that the people they hire are going to be supported. And so it is a complicated but really, really powerful dance at the local level.
That's so fascinating. Like those statistics are, it's really fascinating. And one of the things that I would say that you also do is help to de-risk to some extent some of the projects, right? By going ahead and offering that money up front, it helps with people who are thinking about applying money towards a program or a project to help de-risk it. And, for people who are investors or entrepreneurs, that's actually significant, is to help de-risk a project for sure. That's great.
And I think that's a great point. We give, a lot of discretionary grants in the federal government are, let's say you get a 3-year discretionary grant, you'll get a little bit of money the first year, a little bit of money the second year, and a little bit of money the third year. These grants, because of that very reason, Joe, is we give all $800,000 up front.
Yeah.
And you get it up front. And so you can go to your investors and you can say, look, the federal government believes in this project. The federal government believes that this project is going to be successful and powerful, and they've invested in our project. And so that's a really, really powerful
Very
statement.
powerful. It's really powerful. It is really powerful.
Absolutely. And it's wonderful. We hear great stories about, well, we couldn't get any money, and then we got this federal grant, and now we've got 18 investors knocking on our doors. So it's really a powerful thing.
Well, and it's a timely conversation. It's a timely conversation because earlier today we had a conversation with the Securities and Exchange Commission, and then we were talking about, raising capital. And here's a really good example, especially if you got, if somebody is looking to expand and able to provide quantifiable jobs. I'm sure that there's some thresholds that people have to go ahead and meet. But this is an important way that a business that is looking to expand might be able to go ahead and have that capital to assist in growing their business, for sure.
Well, and I want to say that just in case it's not clear, and I know that I've been working in the government a long time, and I tend to leave out context sometimes. So I want to make something clear. We give the money to the community development corporations. The Community Development Corporation is a nonprofit community organization that then works with businesses in the community to invest in those businesses.
Yep.
They make sub-grants to those businesses. Sometimes they make low-interest loans to those businesses. And so if you are not a community development corporation and you're listening, if you are a business, a small business in a community, you probably have a community development corporation in your community that will help and can help connect you, not just to us, but they're connected to a lot of other resources.
Yep. And there's a whole other, like you said, a host of resources, manufacturing extension partnership, that are parts of various aspects of the federal government. But it's good.
Absolutely.
This is really helpful for people to know that connection with those nonprofits that have a mission in helping build out communities and building out businesses that support those communities. It's a very, very important mission in communities all across the United States.
So I want to talk about the grants themselves. These are actually planning grants that we offer. These are the Community Economic Development Planning Grants. We discovered a few years ago that there were many community development corporations that were unable to participate in the CED program because it's a federal program. It's complicated to apply. It takes a lot of energy to apply. It takes a lot of resources to apply. It can take weeks, if not months, to put together the package to make the application. And so we decided to start the planning grant program, where we offer $150,000 to nonprofit community development corporations to build their capacity and to put together the ideas and to do the brainstorming and to do the partnership development and everything else that they have to do in order to get to the point where they can actually launch a program that then can apply for a community development $800,000 grant. This is a grant that we awarded 21 of these grants last year. This is not a grant that it guarantees you to get a community economic development grant the next time, but it's a capacity building grant with that idea, with that target audience. And applying for federal grants is, I can only imagine, it's god awful. I mean, applying for a federal grant is, I don't even understand the funding announcements that I write sometimes, because we're forced to do things in a certain way. We're forced because it's the federal government and we're full of rules and regulations, and it's awkward and it's hard, and it can seem completely out of reach for most nonprofits, most CDCs, most local small businesses. These planning grants are meant to help bridge that gap a little bit. The CDC awards that we've been given out this year we're going to have two competitions. One is the regular competition for the $800,000 job creation project, and one is the planning grant project. These are, if you want to search for these under grants.gov, you can just look under CFDA number 93.570, or you can just reach out to me. I can hook you up. So, and you'll have my information in there at the end of the presentation. So, a couple of questions come up always when we talk about this, and I want to clarify a couple of things before anybody has to ask. So you probably maybe they've already asked, what is a community development corporation? A community development corporation is not, it's not a title, it's not a certified something or other. You don't ever get a certificate that says you are a community development corporation. It's not a tax status. It's none of those things. It is simply a nonprofit, and in this case, it is a tax status, 501c3. It's a nonprofit, but it's almost defined by its purpose. So it's a nonprofit that has as a principal purpose the planning, developing, or managing of low-income housing or community development projects, and that the board of directors is made up of 3 different groups of people: representatives from the community, residents of the community, business leaders from the area, and civic leaders from the area. That's it. That's what a community development corporation is. If you have civic leaders and business leaders, and you are focused on community development projects, and you're a nonprofit, all you need to do is add some community residents to your board, make it a tripartite board, and you're a CDC. It's not, this is one of the hardest things for people to understand. We talk a lot about CDCs. It's not really a thing. I mean, it's a thing, but it's not a thing. And it's in legislation that this is where this money goes. And so we cannot make an exception. This is where the money goes. Now, again, I said, it's not just, we fund the CDC, but the CDC then invests in the community and in the businesses in the community. Our target, I hate the word target, population is the awful term, but the target is really, we're trying to help people whose incomes do not exceed 200% of the poverty level. And there are way too many people whose incomes do not exceed 200% of the poverty level. There's a link there for poverty guidelines. There is, we're talking about populations of people for a host of reasons. It's difficult for them to find and keep good jobs. Transportation might be a big one. We're looking at TANF recipients. We're looking at non-custodial parents, residents of public housing, formerly incarcerated individuals, houseless individuals, other low-income individuals, anybody who is under 200% of poverty. And really, like I said, this is our goal. This is why this program is in our agency and not at the Department of Commerce and not at the Department of Labor or the Small Business Administration. This is why, because we are really trying to help the communities. Yes.
We got a question in here. What's the difference between a CDC and a CAA?
Okay, great question. They might be the same thing. A CAA is a community action agency, and a CDC is a community development corporation. A CAA is actually a thing. A CAA is a community action agency, has its own definition, and it's a very clear one, and usually works. And I'm not entirely sure what that definition is. That's a program that sits across the hall from where I sit, but I know that there are 1,000 community action agencies across the country. Many of them would qualify as community development corporations, right? So let me go back just real quick to what a community development corporation is. It's three things. Your nonprofit 501c3. Do you have as your principal purpose low-income housing or community development? And do you have a tripartite board of directors? Do you have a board of directors that has community residents, business leaders, and civic leaders? So many community action agencies would qualify as CDCs.
Okay, great.
And in the applications, in the CED application, you have to show that you qualify as a CDC with some documentation. But it's easy to, if you are that, it's easy to do. So there are not enough people in this country right now working, and there's not enough people to fill the jobs that are empty. And so what's the gap? The gap is often the support services. The gap is often somebody is, I hear stories sometimes about kids going to high school who are homeless, right? I can't imagine. I could barely make it through high school and I had a home. Going to high school if you're homeless, that's a huge drain on your energy. That's a huge drain on anything you've got to do to focus on where you need to be and how you need to work. Same is true for a job. If you are working and you have small children at home that need daycare, that need childcare, that's a problem. If you are working and you have kids, or if you have older parents living with you that you can't leave alone, that's a problem. If you've got a felony arrest record on your paperwork, a lot of people won't hire you. And so these are the kinds of things and the kinds of problems we're trying to solve with this bridge program, right? So let me talk a little bit about the jobs that we're looking for and the kind of jobs that we're in the kind of programs we hope to be able to invest in this year. So first of all, we really want programs that are going to create jobs that are going to be well-paying jobs. We're not looking for $11 an hour jobs. We're looking for jobs that are going to make a difference in somebody's life, taking them from where they are economically and then making them mobile up to a better place. We're looking for geographic areas that we have not served yet. And so we're looking anytime there's and in the funding announcement, there is a list of areas where we do not have any grants, and we'd love to have grants in those areas. We also prioritize rural communities and areas that are persistent poverty areas. Now, I think persistent poverty area is a Department of Agriculture designation, and that there's information about that in the applications. And then Native American communities that set a new standard on poverty. If you've ever been to Indian Territory, it's a different animal there. Also, we want to look at areas and projects that address issues of climate, environmental justice. Energy communities are communities that have been historically reliant on the fossil fuel industry. A lot of West Virginia towns, a lot of Texas oil towns,
coal mining
coal
communities, oil
mining.
and gas.
And
Yep.
so we want to look at, and there's several issues in those kinds of communities that are of interest. We want to help those communities diversify so that they're not completely reliant on the fossil fuel that may go away easily, or that we also want fossil fuels tend to have an environmental impact on a community, and we want to make sure. And if there's some way to address that in your proposal, that's great. Justice 40 initiative communities. Justice 40 is a government initiative. Again, you can find some information about that. A lot of these communities will overlap with each other. And we also are looking for programs that are currently collaborating with other Office of Community Services grant recipients. Now, the other Office of Community Services grants that you might have heard of, LIHEAP, the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, LIWAP, the community, which is the water program, Community Services Block Grant Program, Social Services Block Grant Program. We've got a lot of money out there, and we want to make sure that we're using it in an efficient way, and we're not completing or competing with each other to do the same thing with the money. We want it to be complementary, not competitive. And just a couple of resources that with some links, and there's my email. If you've got more information, and I'm just looking at the time, it's almost half past. I am certainly more. I'm willing to answer emails if you send me an email. If you have questions, there's a great, the CED website, I will say, has more resources than I'm even aware of. I'm finding new things on it all the time that I didn't know were there.
Yeah.
The CED website, I would absolutely urge everybody to go there. The funding announcements. The funding announcements for both of the CED funds will probably be coming out in the spring. I don't have a date. If I did, I couldn't give it to you anyway. So that's the Community Economic Development Program.
Well, I got to tell you, this is just chock full of information, and you touch on a theme that actually has surfaced over the last couple of days within the other agencies, which is really about partnerships. And I think it was the Department of Energy yesterday said that they saw a significant, based on data, that the likelihood of a business to succeed significantly increases on the partnerships. Can you just go back to your one slide for a second? Because I want to dig into that partnership, since it is a bit of a theme, Amber, that we've been hearing across the board. The collaboration. Sorry.
Which one was that?
One right after that. No, the one right before your last one. Next one. Next one. There we go. This one.
Okay.
So down at the bottom, the collaboration with current OCS grant recipients. Just dive into that just a little bit more. But I want to also go ahead and say that, one of the things that in the conversations that we've had over the last couple of days is, if you're a business and you want to expand, it's not just going ahead and looking for resources or grants or those sorts of things. There's so many ways to collaborate with different organizations in a community, whether it's a community college, it's the CDCs that you're talking about, the CAAs. There's a number of different ways for businesses to really expand their businesses. And when you look at some of the target populations that you were referring to in the previous slide, the opportunities for those folks to get well-paying jobs usually means that there's quite a bit of also loyalty in those folks after they started.
You have. There are on our website. I'll just say this, and like, if you've got 20 minutes, go to the website and look at the videos. we've got video spotlights of some of our programs, and it will touch your heart. It's like it's better than a Hallmark movie. It's really it's just there are so many stories about people that have really come to the end of their rope, not able to do anything, and this program steps in, gives them a job, gives them skills, either employs them in a business or actually helps them set up their own business.
Yeah,
Right.
that's huge.
So it is and we've been doing this for decades.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
And
it's when you guys first came to us, there was a little bit of, for Amber and me, kind of like, oh, okay, well, this is interesting. But it is fascinating because of the work that I've done in rural communities and especially across Appalachia, and understanding, persistent poverty. There's a whole host of reasons,
yeah,
and without finger pointing, being able to go ahead and get people to move to a place from poverty to prosperity is super important, for a variety of reasons, because it cures having a good, well-paying job. It doesn't cure everything, but it cures a lot of things. It really makes
it
a
is it
difference.
is it is a financial, emotional, and spiritual thing. Getting
Physical,
a
all of
job.
it. It's the
Yeah,
whole entire well-being, right?
it is absolutely. And you talk about the challenges that exist, and one thing, there's a story that comes to mind out of Montana. There was a program we had out there, and there was a part of the town that had just been, actually it had a fire, and so there were lots of areas that weren't, lots of empty storefronts and things like that. And so we gave a grant, and they were going to open a restaurant in that area that was really, really run down. And the restaurant is, as I said, the business is a tool, and to get people employed. In the meantime, what happened? So over the course of the next few years, while they were building up this restaurant, an investor came in and cleaned up the whole strip of part, and they started really putting other things in, and it became a pretty high-end area. So now we had a program in a high-end area that the people that were being employed couldn't get to because of transportation issues.
Sure.
They could no longer afford to live in that community.
Yeah. It is interesting on the economic development side of things. And when you look at entrepreneurship, in fact, it's part of the reason for me personally that I'm so passionate about entrepreneurship, is that it provides an opportunity for an individual to change generational wealth, as you said at the very
Absolutely.
beginning of this. But it also provides an opportunity for those people to provide, good paying jobs for people in an array of communities. And when we look at entrepreneurship as a way of economic development, because when you look at some of the historical stuff with economic development, there's a lot of conversations about, business relocations and tax credits and those sorts of things.
Oh yeah.
And those are important aspects of things. But when you build a viable and sustainable business in a community from scratch, those funds stay within the community and they create that multiplier effect. So that restaurant that
Right.
you're talking about, I think somebody at one conference that I attended, there was a conversation about coffee shop economic development in our main streets towns, right? Put
Yeah.
a coffee shop in there and have that become almost like a community center of sorts, and how that serves as a wellspring, a ripple effect for economic development is super important. And so for those who are entrepreneurs that are thinking about, this as a program, now go back to the next slide. There's a number of different resources and videos that you're sharing here, and it's a new and a novel way, because if you build a successful business, one of the things that I've also found is that there is a propensity, a willingness to give back, and it's not just based on my own experience as a financial advisor and having worked with entrepreneurs all across the world. It's actually based on data from Fidelity that found that there's a desire to give back. The program that you have is really, really well earmarked for entrepreneurs who want to identify ways that they can give back. And so, You know, even looking at the website and the resources that you offer, you know, entrepreneurs who become successful, there's ways to go ahead and partner with some of these nonprofits and communities
Yeah.
that can help really drive well-intentioned entrepreneurs who really, really want to help. I've seen this quite a bit time and time again, where entrepreneurs want to go ahead and provide resources or whatever, and they don't necessarily do it the right way.
They don't know where to start.
They
Yeah.
don't know where to start, and they're not necessarily, there's some assumptions that they may come to the table, which for people who are in, you know, persistent poverty, you got to be careful about some of those assumptions on how you come to the table on some of these things.
Well, it's funny that you talk about giving back, because one of my favorite videos on the website is a video of a man who was in prison, in and out of prison for a decade or so, and he had a small daughter, and when he got out the last time he was in prison, he went through an entrepreneurship program, like how to create a business.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a hopefully to be a you know, to reduce recidivism and that kind of thing. And so when he got out, he was ready to try to do that. Wasn't finding any resources to help him. Got connected with a partner of one of the community development corporations that had gotten one of our grants, and he started a trucking company. And he started a trucking company with one truck, and now he's got like 8 trucks, and he's employing other people. And they interview one of the people that works for him, another driver, and he was saying, you know, and he employs a lot of the ex-felons, you know, people who've been in prison. And he was saying, you know, I have a real job now. I have a real job, and I even pay taxes. And the way he said it was sort of like he was really proud that he pays taxes, but then you could look on his face, he went, I even pay taxes. You know, it was like, oh wait,
a little bit despondent.
It was very funny. It's a very funny moment, but it's that kind of a thing, you know. And you don't, you know, we really want the communities to grow and to thrive with the resources, starting with the resources that they already have.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Start with what you got.
You know, gentrification is a real thing, and it's a real problem. We want economic development that doesn't displace communities.
Yep.
And that's really what we're looking for.
Yeah, you know, I call that economic development and entrepreneurial bricolage. You take last night's leftovers, whatever you got in the refrigerator, you go ahead and use that because that's what you got. The other thing I'll say, and then we can wrap it up here, and just Amber, see if you have any questions or anything else here. But the other thing I'll say to this is that, you know, persistent poverty has root causes in a variety of different things. And those people, I've had a little bit of a time to be able to work with people and employ some people who've been previously incarcerated. And, you know, one of the things that I've come to discover after having conversations with a couple of folks, a number of the folks, is that they're so entrepreneurial. To be a criminal, you kind of actually have to be entrepreneurial, but you're not necessarily putting those skills and those resources in the right direction. If you just went ahead and considered ways to apply that creativity to building a business where you can go ahead and go out and get customers, there's such a wealth of opportunities for people to be able to do that. And you can go ahead and start a business, and you don't have to worry about your boss asking about your past or your experience. And so the program that you guys offer in terms of helping people really restart their lives and it's really, really, I got to say, it's really one of the noblest programs. I think that in a lot of the conversations that we have is just really, it's so heartening to hear. And I'm sure that the work that you do is so gratifying. I really appreciate you coming on today.
I haven't always had jobs that I sleep well at night, but I definitely sleep well at night with this one. This is a great program.
That's great. And Amber and I have had the opportunity to work across Appalachia, so we know, you know, that there's places where there's persistent poverty, and how we go ahead, and it takes more than just a job, right? It's the daycare, it's the transportation, it's making
all those support services,
stability, right, and healthcare, and all of those various things, and that a lot of people take for granted. But you can't necessarily, you know, if you're worried about whether or not you have enough food, sometimes it's kind of hard to figure out transportation and all these other various aspects of
Oh,
things.
you can go for days about the problems with transportation, especially in rural areas.
Rural communities, for sure.
Rural communities, what do you do if you don't have a car in a rural
And there's
community?
no
What do you do?
Uber.
There's no
Yep.
Uber, there's no bus, there's no train.
Yep.
Food insecurity is a real problem.
Yeah,
for
it really is.
way too many people in this country.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I got to say, I just, the work that you guys are doing there, please go ahead and just thanks to you and to all the other folks that are working on this year in and year out, because you're doing a yeoman's job and it is hard work. Amber, are
Well,
there
we really appreciate the opportunity to participate in your project, the Entrepreneurship Week. I think what you're doing is great. I'm an entrepreneur on the side, and so I'm a real fan. So
Well,
this is
thank you very
great.
much. I appreciate you saying that. I will just correct one thing. It's not our project. This is America's project. Amber and I have just been fortunate enough to be entrusted with this these last 6 years, but this is not something that is ours. It's really America's, and we feel very, very fortunate to be able to create these videos and then share them out with communities and people throughout the year. Amber, do you have any additional questions?
I do. I just want to touch on this because we talked a little bit about partnerships, and I think that this is really important. We've had several webinars previously that talk about some of specifically ways that this could address some of the gaps. Like I know we've talked about Youth Build when they age out of that program, what support services are available. This seems like a very viable program. We had a lot of great questions yesterday on USDA rural development about, do they offer these specific supports for certain programs? And this feels like a really good connection there. So, and we talked a little bit about partnerships, but if you had to summarize, Tom, the characteristics that define a successful CED project, I know partnerships being one, kind of, what would your last advice for somebody looking to pursue these opportunities be?
I would say a good CED and I'll be the first to say, no one should ever look at a funding announcement from the federal government and try to tailor a program to that announcement. You should look at your community, tailor the program to your community. Take a job, take a good look at the resources that exist in your community and the needs in your community. What is the need? What are the resources? Match them up. Try to come up with something that will work for your community. We had an application that came in last year for I want to say it was a barista training center. I didn't even know there were such things, but a barista training center in the middle of like a rural area that was 100 miles from a major city. And I thought, I don't feel like that's
baristas.
I don't think there's a lot of need for those in that community, right? So you want to look at the community, you want to match up the needs and the resources in the community. You want to make sure that you're making those partnerships, and not just the partnerships that bring in the dollars, not just the partnerships with the businesses and the nonprofits, but the partnerships with the service organizations in your community. We're not asking a business. Let me just make it really clear. We're not asking a small manufacturer to employ a bunch of folks and then provide daycare for them or childcare, or to provide transportation for them. We are saying do that through partnerships. Find out, and it's just like, I'm not going to offer my employees transportation if they don't need transportation. Find out what they need, find out what the community needs, find out and do that needs assessment early, and keep looking at it. Don't stop looking at it, because it will change over time.
I think you're really to something that, like, I say all the time, and we really live this in our organization, is like, don't chase money or funding, chase people's problems. Like, that is an entrepreneurial mindset component, is to find needs, create solutions to problems, and then the financial aspect of that will come later. You'll find success, to put it. And so I think I just want to thank you for really speaking to that, because I think it's easy a lot of times to say, I have this great idea and I need money for it. But if the great idea is only great to you, right, then it's not viable. So I think that really speaks to that.
So I just want to say again, thank you so much for having me on and having us on. The Community Economic Development Program is really a shining star in the federal programs as far as I'm concerned. So if anybody who looking for more information, please reach out to me.
Great. Well, thank you so much for this really informative presentation and conversation today, and really enlightening. We really appreciate the hard work that you and everybody else are doing. And with that, we're going to get ready for our next session. Amber, do you want to go ahead and just share a quick logistics announcement?
Yes, so our next session will be kicking off at 1 p.m. and it will be with the Department of Energy Solar Energy Technology Office. So a little bit of a niche program, but we hope everyone will join us there. There will be a little break at 2 p.m. and then we'll wrap up federal agency office hours at 3 with the Department of Homeland Security. So appreciate you all very much. The recordings will be available in the coming weeks on our resource repository as well. So thank you, Tom. Appreciate your time
You're very
tremendously.
welcome.
Yeah, thanks to you and the rest of your team for all the hard work, and keep at it. It's a great program. Thanks for joining us.
Y'all having a great weekend.
All right,
Thank
you
you.
too.
Bye all.